Welcome to the Manufacturing Shakeup. We're your hosts, Ellen Feldman-Ornato
and Jenny Drescher. We're talking with dynamic women from across the manufacturing scene in Connecticut. Hey, friends in listener land. Ever have a moment in your life when you feel like a total square peg in a round hole and you're looking around and you're saying, wait, what am I doing? What is happening? How do I want to do this? And then suddenly you see the light. Oh! And you're like, wait, this is the perfect place for me. This is exactly where I belong, doing work that I love. So we are excited to have Leah Rumore with us today from Goggin Safety Services. And Leah, I would love to have you tell us about what does it mean for you that at one point you felt like the quote unquote on man out and then everything changed for you. How'd that happen?
The first time that happened was when I jumped in the construction role, and all of a sudden I had to wear my vest and a hard hat, and I had to figure out how to put my hair in it. And then it just didn't feel like I was like used to just business clothes, and now I had to go into these. So it was definitely like, all right, I need to make some adjustments. But then once I started talking with people and getting to know them on a personal level, it just all came natural. And now I can't not wear this. I actually like it because it keeps my pens here and I don't have to carry around a portfolio notebook or anything. So,
wow, that is like the safety equivalent of a plastic pencil holder in your pocket there. Very attractive.
Except for when the pen leaks. Oh yeah, not good.
So for those of you who can't see Leah is wearing her safety vest today because she is a safety pro. And this is honestly one of our favorite topics here at the Shakeup because it's such a big part of the manufacturing landscape. So can you give us a little background about how you became a safety professional?
Sure. So I started out, I didn't actually know about the safety career. Like this was like actually like a thing to do. And that you can get a degree in it, but like that was years later. I actually got an interest in it. I was taking psychology at UConn in college, and I took a class in ergonomics as an elective. I was like, I need to check a box. Took the ergonomics class, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like learning how to prevent people from getting hurt, like at work. Like, and it clicked because my mom actually had carpal tunnel, and my stepfather had a ganglion cyst from working so many years. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could help them out with that. And originally I was going to school for psychology, and I was going to be a clinical therapist and help people like mentally. But then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, like segue, like a side thing for psychology is learning that. So the dean of the department became really invested in me because he saw that I was very interested. I volunteered and I did some graduate research at the school, and then he got me into Pratt & Whitney as an internship, and then they hired me full time, and that's where I got into safety, which is I was like, there's a department that does like helps prevent injuries. So I thought that was kind of neat. It was like still in a way helping people, but in a different way, and it's more. It was almost like I used to really like, and I still watch it, the Mike Rowe Dirty Jobs show. Mm-hmm. I loved watching how things work and how they're made. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow, I get both at the same time. So that's kind of how I got into it, and I stayed in it, and now I can't get out.
So when I think of ergonomics, I think about like, which office chair am I going to buy? And obviously, it goes inside of a manufacturing facility. It goes so far beyond that. So can you give us just a broad brush of the kinds of things that you are looking at on a day-by-day basis?
Oh, yeah. In the manufacturing setting, I was looking at like conveyor systems. Like the place I was at had old overhead hoists that wouldn't move in a certain direction. They had to move them manually and push the parts on like a pulley system, and the conveyors were not adjustable. And so the company was saying to us, like, we need to really like look at everything with a fine-tooth comb at these job functions and see how we can help them out, because they had a woman that was about she actually was 5 foot or 4'9", and there was a man that was working there. He was 6 feet. So we were like, how are we like gonna do this? So they had movable step stools, but we actually found a way to use a bearing roller system instead of the overhead hoist that they can use with a bar and roll it really easily. And then the conveyors, we got adjustable on a like a button push. And the efforts that we put in, like as the team, so I help lead the team, we actually reduced their ergo injuries by 40%.
Wow.
Yeah, and like
That's a huge number.
Yeah, because it was just kind of like they just needed me to like really just get some of the guy and we had to get everyone's participation and their ideas. So it took time to really like, what do you think we should do, and what do you think, and then kind of come to a common ground and lay it out. So, and it took trial and error of what tools to use. So it was fun.
What kind of resistance I have to imagine that there are situations where you are trying to make upgrades, whether it's on a construction site or a manufacturing site or the other kinds of places that Goggins goes in and work. What kind of things do people say that are sort of evidence of, I don't want to do that, or resistance? Because when you're asking people to become safer, you're asking them to adapt and change, which is something humans are not exactly jazzed about most of the time. Like, what does that look like and how do you handle it?
So I have to kind of ease into it. I can't go to someone and say, hey, we're going to be using this from now on. It's more of, I have to kind of get it to make it like their idea in some way, which is giving them the options. Like, so I'll bring in like a supplier, a vendor, like an engineer or something, and we'll come up with like a solution that they can try out. And I won't tell them this is it. Like, this is end all be all written in stone. This is what you have to use. It's like, hey, let's try this for a few weeks. And then if you don't want to use it, it's fine. We'll go back. So you just have to, and you have to get to know them on a personal level first. So especially with a company, it's easier in a company that I work for straight up. But if I'm in a consulting role, it's harder because you don't really know them as much. So you got to get to know them a little faster. But yeah, I say don't even talk business until you share some stories and joke around a little bit. Lighten the mood a little bit before, and then kind of go in.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like that psychology degree came in handy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's just, you don't want to come off like, we also have a stigma in safety profession as we're the cops. Like, oh, the safety person's coming, put your hard hat on, kind of thing. So we've really done much effort in the last few years saying we're not cops, we're coaches. So that's kind of how I see myself, as a coach or well, sometimes a cheerleader at times. So
you've got this.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta be like super more motivated before them sometimes. But
when you were inside of an organization, did you ever run safety groups or safety programs?
Yeah. Yes.
So what was that like?
It was good. So it was a lot of like just kind of making sure that when you put a program together, like we'd silica dust was an issue in construction. It just came out. OSHA made the law. Like the final rule was in 2018, and really you just got to sit down and understand how are we going to become compliant, how we're going to make this program work. And then you have to kind of like bring in different facility, like sometimes I'll use like the shop or a mechanics or a facilities group to help say, hey, what can we do ourselves to help be compliant with this? Sometimes we'll have to bring in the, kind of estimate budget, like how much things are going to cost for like a big change. And then also it's kind of like you have to step it out, like, but work within the company, and you can't work in a vacuum. I learned that you can't be just looking at your computer, looking at the policy, writing up your own policy and saying, all right, this is it. It's more of you gotta get on the ground, boots on the ground, get it implemented. Then I worry about really like what our policy is going to look like.
Yeah. That seems like an area where people would often make a mistake and get that backwards. Is that something that you've seen since you've been in the more of a consultancy role with Goggins, where people say, well, we have this problem, so therefore we need to make all these blanket policies, but they don't actually dig in enough? Is that a thing that happens?
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's something that I like. That's a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand like just like somebody just sitting there putting into policy, and usually they just put it in a book and it's in a binder and like dust collecting on it. And actually, I see that with disciplinary action policies where they won't take the actual policy and use it and say, all right, well, this subcontractor comes in and they don't wear their hard hats like at all, or like we have to tell them every day. And I'm like, well, what does your policy say? And so they're like, yeah, I guess we could use disciplinary action and have that discussion. So I think it is something that if I implement a policy, I like to kind of see how it's going to look in real life in the field. And then like, I'll have it written up, but then adjust it. So that's why I always say like the policy isn't just written and then done the first, like right off the bat, it's finished. It should be an adjustment over a period of time. And that goes to any like manufacturing or construction.
And then there must be variations in companies that have multiple sites or multiple plants, that even though you have the policy, the way it plays out in the different locations probably has to be adjusted by location as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's some jobs don't have certain hazards, so you can't just oh, I'm going to take that policy and put it over here. It's not going to work. So, yeah. And also like I've seen, jobs where you have to have an emergency. So for OSHA, you have to have an emergency action plan, which is like who's on site, what are their phone numbers, who's what's the nearest hospital. And I'll go and ask them for it and I'll see it. And it's from a job from their previous project. And I'm like, God. So so I'm like, wait, but have you guys communicated this to the field? And that's my thing. I'm like, if you have a policy, you should be always voicing it to the people. And it's just the word's got to be brought out to the field.
I wonder about that. I remember back in my days in distribution, seeing that exact thing and seeing also that at a certain point, there was so much information, it just became a blur and we didn't bother with it. And so having that constant refreshment makes sense. And do you think that there's, when people are looking at too much information, what do you think the best practices are to put fresh eyes on it, even if this information isn't changing? Like, how do you go about?
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you go say, here are like the top 5 things you need to think about with this next upcoming job? Like, what's your approach for that?
So yeah, I like to involve the people, and especially if we're talking about it and we're like, say, doing a toolbox talk or safety training or something like that. I'm more hands-on. So it's more of like, say for fall protection, I'll kind of find somebody that I know on the job site that feels comfortable being in front of people, and I'll bring them in and they'll have the harness on, and then they'll show everyone, oh, here's how to inspect the harness. So them seeing their friend up there, like it's funny to them, and they're kind of like more tuned into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we try to keep it fresh, and I try not to be the only one talking all the time. I was on a job where it was like every single day they wanted me to be the speaker, and because the superintendents didn't want to talk in front of people. And I was like, this isn't, it's just people are going to shut off. And so that's how I learned to kind of use other people in there. I've also brought out, like, shown videos. We've played music, like in the background. Sometimes we have to do stretch and flex. I don't know if you've heard of that. So we'll bring music out. Somebody will pick a song. We play it, and then we'll like pick somebody, like at the end. We'll say, all right, now the person that's leading can pick the next person for next week. But yeah, I say I'm a big believer. I think safety is super important. I highly believe in it. It's just, I think if it's thrown down people's throats, it's almost just they're turned off by it. So it's like maybe even not even every day doing these events or these talks, but at least once a week, and just getting them engaged in it is, I think, the best thing.
Well, I have a question for you before, because we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. Can we draw the lens way out in terms of, for the people who are listening to this, what's the scope of, or the size of the opportunity for people if they're interested in what you've been talking about in terms of getting into EHS and environmental health and safety? What do you think that is? Do you think this is an emerging field? This is something that's growing? What do you think?
Yeah, ever since I've been in this field, I've seen it grow, and it's still growing. I actually read the National Safety Council Health and Safety magazine, and they do a survey every year, and you just can see the opportunity. I actually go on Indeed. I get like notifications. I see them all the time. Like you see them in manufacturing. But more so actually in construction, I've seen a lot of need for more help because of the infrastructure jobs that are out there. It's going to keep going. So fantastic. Very exciting field.
Yeah. So before I wrap, one more quick question for you. If you were, so we're very big fans of trying to get more Connecticut residents to start thinking about entering manufacturing, obviously by the name of our show here. And if you were to be speaking with a young person or even an older person advanced in their career who was thinking about going into manufacturing, and maybe they were getting their first plant tour to learn about an organization, what would you be having them look for as indicators that the environment is being well cared for, that it's safe, that people are on top of what they need to be on top of with OSHA and maybe even ergonomics? What would be a couple of hot tips you could give someone going into the field that they should? Oh, yeah.
So I think, okay, so first of all, when you go into manufacturing or construction, you're not going to be alone, and you're not going to be like, oh yeah, here, go run that machine. You're going to be thoroughly trained. There's so many classes, and you have some areas you'll have if you're part of a union, you'll also be able to join, be an apprentice and just learn with the guys or with the girls that have the experience. Also, we highly encourage when you come into the field, you have somebody with you that's you're shadowing for a while. So you're not alone.
Great. That's a hot tip. I'm going to make a note of that, because we meet a lot of young folks on our podcast who are coming out of school and they're getting job interviews, and they're trying to learn, what do I look for when I go into a place? And I know it shouldn't be dark and dirty and dangerous, but what do I know? And so those are
right. And there's also a voice. Yeah. You have a voice. If you see something that's a hazard, every company that I've worked for has said, stop work authority. You can go and say to your manager, this isn't safe, or I don't know about this. I've been that person that's a guide. Like, I had an engineer that came to me one day saying that she wasn't comfortable spotting equipment, because sometimes we have to spot trucks that come in and out of an area, and it's narrow and dangerous. So, I showed her like the ways to do it. I talked to the operator, said, hey, she's kind of new to this. Let's try this out. So like, everyone is open in the field to help you out. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, that person's new. So.
No. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wind us down, because we could do this all day. I just feel like I feel like a sponge learning from you. This is amazing. You just,
Very cool
so many things that you think about that are just critical for our everyday experience at work. So hot tips from you today. Our Shake-Up Factors friends are, first and foremost, let's all be Mary Poppins and remember to get a spoonful of sugar to help that medicine go down. When we're asking people to take on any kind of change, some safety practices that might be really important, make sure you sweeten it up a little, and also make it gradual. Help people to discover what's in it for them, and help them to feel like they are co-creating that process with you, that you are not there to direct them, but that you're there to co-create with them solutions that make them feel like they have choice. Shake-Up Factor 2 is upgrade your show and tell. I mean, when was the last time you did your show and tell and it was boring, friends? So upgrade your show and tell on your safety stuff. How interesting can you make it? What team member needs to have a chance to tell a story about success with safety that they've had recently? That's an easy yes that we've just learned from Leah. And Shake-Up Factor number 3 is for our friends going into manufacturing or construction in our small but mighty state. Remember that even if you find aspects of this work daunting, that you will not be alone. You have a team, and there will always be people that will be there to help and to teach you along the way. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to do this exciting work and be safe about it. So Leah Rumore of Goggin Safety Services, we have just been so thrilled to have you with us, and we hope to see you again on down the road.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Leah.
Thanks for having me.
The Manufacturing Shake-Up is sponsored by the Connecticut Office of Manufacturing, produced by Maselli Productions and Gale Communications, and hosted by the Boulder Company.